AI, digital currency, and tracking conversation that Larry Fink had with the governor of Texas. And you can see there, Catherine Austin Fitts commented on it. I saw some other posts on it. Then I saw Catherine's post, and I said, okay, I'll put in Catherine's post. And I don't agree with Catherine on everything, but she really, really nailed it right there. We'll give you some of this information, but essentially, I'll play for you what Larry Fink is saying. And then we're going to take a break, come back, because I want to just round off some of the warfare stuff on this Memorial Day with some very, very good essays on World War II. But first, let me give you this one about this conversation. Now, I had to record this because it was a very low volume. But as they have here, we've got Catherine Austin Fitts mentioning mandatory investment. Remember how I said, I didn't know that when the government claimed they were making an investment, I was going to be forced into an investment. But I guess that is what they think they can do to us, right? Well, I recorded this. It should be in the system here. Let me make sure I've got it. Yep. So this is the conversation in Texas about how important AI infrastructure is. It's so important that you should be forced to invest in it.
If we could get more and more Americans to think about growing with the United States, we will have far than enough money to invest in this infrastructure. But as the governor was talking about, the need for electrons is growing every day.
In other words, electricity, obviously.
Some of these, if we're going to be the leader in technology, which we are, if we are going to be the leader in AI, which we presently are, it's just going to require trillions of dollars of investments. And if we don't invest in it, China will be the global leader in this. And
so there you go. That forced pronoun of inclusion, we. If we don't invest in this, we will be this, we will be that. Do you maybe have a few other things on your schedule? You got a few other things on your desk that you're trying to handle? Because those should be pushed aside for what Larry Fink says should be our priorities, common priorities. Maybe it takes a village. It's the same mindset, right? Same mindset. Doesn't matter what party it is. They will suck you into what the state should tell you to do because it's better for you.
To me, it's not whether. This is a must. And if you think about how that translates, it translates into a more dynamic economy.
How do you know? So get this. Central planning translates into a more dynamic economy. See how that works? I swear, this is just unbelievable. This is like, Stalin, Lenin, Gorbachev, Khrushchev, all those people. They always had their plans. And they said it would lead to a much more vibrant economy by focusing on their central plans.
We need the United States economy to grow at over 2%. We need the U.S. economy to grow at 3%, especially with the growing deficits the federal government has. And so much of this money, not just the project, is going to be coming from the private sector, from savings accounts, from pension accounts, from insurance companies, on and on and on. The whole world is in need of improving the infrastructure.
So I don't know about you, but do any of you get the sense when you see something like that, that you're watching a guy who's trying out to be the Wizard of Oz? So often the past few weeks, I keep seeing these figures and they just want to be the lever pullers. And I keep thinking, man, I should reread The Wizard of Oz, because I know L. Frank Baum was a theosophist, and he was also a big time populist. He loved who was the guy back in the back? I'll have to look it up again. He was a politician running for president. And he was a populist, very much in favor of reducing the debt of the farmers for the Eastern bankers and things like that. And, I don't necessarily agree that people's debts should be absolved through the means of government, saying, well, you can pay back with silver rather than gold, which was the whole thing. William Jennings Bryan, that's who it was. And he modeled the Cowardly Lion after Bryan, essentially saying Bryan spoke a good game, but actually didn't do anything. His courage wasn't really there. But, it is very interesting to see the anti-authoritarian theme in Wizard of Oz. And especially the way that they sort of switched it around in the movie and made the yellow brick road gold actually a little bit more valuable than the Emerald City, which was the green, which was basically useless. Because in the book, she has silver slippers and she's walking on a road of gold. And the analogy is that the road of gold brings her to a place that's fake because L. Frank Baum was didn't want the gold standard. He wanted the silver standard. And then she clicks her heels 3 times to get home because it's silver. And that he wanted the farmers to be able to repay their loans to bankers in the East with less. They wanted the dollar based on the silver amount. And it obviously would have been worth less. So that would have made it a much better deal. And the farmers would have essentially been defrauding the people who gave them the loans. But behind all that is this very large corporate battle. And there's the bankers are running everything argument that a person like William Jennings Bryan and a person like L. Frank Baum and the farmers understood. They were saying we're being taken advantage of by the people in the club. So you can see how that sort of translates to what Karl Marx did when he tried to pull in so many of the people who didn't like the parliament, didn't like a lot of these big business people getting connected to the parliament. And then he was able to broad brush anybody who owned property and say they're all evil, right? So you can see sort of similar themes, the underdog against the entrenched interests of the Eastern banking industrial establishment in the United States. That's why you had the Tin Man. Tin Man was being taken advantage of by the industrialist. He originally had been a man, but much like the Cybermen, he was worked so hard that the industrialist just replaced parts of his body with metal machine parts. That's how the Tin Man got started. And then, of course, the Scarecrow represents the farmer and the hayseed that everyone would depict as being dumb, but actually the Scarecrow was pretty darn smart and industrious. So L. Frank Baum did a really good job in, putting those parallels in an entertaining book series that just went on and on. He was hugely popular and an ingenious person doing what he was able to do. But I do get that sense when I see Larry Fink, I think of The Wizard and how they always want to run things. They have their central plans.